Minutes after 10, what is it like on the front line? Our weekly expressions of sympathy and gratitude are, profoundly sincere, but they're not built perhaps upon as much knowledge as they could be. And I want answers to this question from all corners of the health service and of course the attendant services as well. Gaza is bombing around the place on his bike at the moment, moving samples for the NHS. He volunteers for the Nottingham Blood Bikes. Normally dealing with bloods and similar, boxes of blood even, but he's sent me a picture of one of the things he's currently responsible for transporting, and bright pink with the big triangle exclamation mark, COVID-19, sample for analysis. It's all changed. Pedro's in Southwark. Pedro, what can you tell us?
Hi, James. I've worked on days off at the moment, but I've just had 3 gruelling days on A&E within the London area. And I work as a nurse there. And my normal patient load would be 6 patients in the bay that I work. And I'm very familiar with looking after ED type, emergency patients in that environment. And but my day the other day was spectacular in the shift of the numbers because I had 6 COVID patients, 2 of whom were in their 40s and 50s and honestly expected to pull through, but they had high oxygen requirements.
Right.
But the other 4 were very old. You can tell from the tremble in my voice, I don't like recalling it. Very old, very otherwise unwell, very, very high oxygen requirements, and not expected to make it. And the thing that hurts the most is that when you work as a nurse, at that time of someone's life, the most important thing you can give, it's not just the care, it's the time that you can give them, right? You're just sitting at the bedside and interacting with the family, interacting with the patient, and being there for them. I can't do that. I just can't do that. I touch point. I'm lickety split. There's so much to do for everybody all the time, observations-wise, cares-wise, everything-wise, that there's no pause. It's just heavy all the time. And as soon as one moves out, another moves in that is equally in need. And I can do the care bit. I've got time for the care bit, but I haven't got time for the time. That's where we're being robbed. That's where our patients are. That's where I believe the suffering lies. For me, and for the
human touch. You're describing the human touch, aren't you? That is clearly we forget. We know how important it is to your patients, but we forget until we hear that tremble in your voice how important it is to you as well.
It's the bit where you get a little bit of a warm, fuzzy feeling inside when you do the job well, but because of that, you come home and you think, I did a good job today. I don't know what sort of a job I'm doing at the moment. It's tough. Every day is really, really different, and the fatigue levels are high. And what I'm finding is that I just can't be bothered to do anything on my days off. When you think, I'll do this, I'll get through my job list on my days off.
I'm mildly familiar with that phenomenon, Pedro, yes.
Yeah. So, it's hard out there. But I think the hardest thing is these people are mostly alone as well, because we have a strict visiting policy. Only patients that are, unfortunately, end of life are allowed one visitor, and everybody else is strictly no visitors. So all our patients are not only reliant on nurses that have no time for them, as I've previously proved, but they're alone as well. And they're fighting their fear by themselves.
And normally that would be a breach into which you could step and find a few more moments than perhaps with other patients, just to hold their hand metaphorically, even physically.
We often look after in the emergency department. We often look after people who are at various stages of illness, who have no next of kin for whatever reason, and a good nurse will step into that role and build the rapport and talk about the previous life and just be that human touch and that reach out. We are robbed of the time necessary to do that nowadays.
you're probably doing more than you realise. Just because you're doing less than you would like to and less than you usually do, I'm sure that everybody listening to this will be thinking that your compassion is clear, and that will almost be passed on to some of these people. And I know you want to do more, mate. That is dripping from every syllable you've said this morning. But somehow there'll be a sort of emotional osmosis. The fact that you care so much will be communicating itself to these people, even if you can't articulate it.
So.
Oh no, mate, for sure.
I feel I'm falling short of my own standards, if you know what I mean.
Please don't feel. No, I do know exactly what you mean, and I think the biggest surprise for many people listening to men and women like you is this sense of guilt that you have, despite the fact that you're going above and beyond what anybody could reasonably expect of you. And to be clear, it couldn't be any different at the moment, could it? I mean, this is simply the reality with which you have to deal.
It is, and every time I go to work, that's what my expected day is for the foreseeable future. There is no light at the end of the tunnel for me personally. It's going to be a long haul, I think.
Well, clearly it is, and thank God we've got people like you doing the heavy lifting. You know I mean that completely, and you know I speak for absolutely everybody listening to the programme. I appreciate, you don't want to be planting potatoes or fixing the fridge door, whatever it is on that to-do list that you just can't motivate yourself to do. But are you finding a little bit of time to look after yourself?
Yeah, I'm pottering. I'm doing little jobs that I enjoy.
Yes.
But I'm not mowing the lawn.
Priorities, Pedro, priorities. You look after yourself, mate. Thank you for everything that you're doing, seriously. 24 minutes after 10, the reality of the front line, because it's men and women like Pedro.